Good morning, everyone. We are coming to you live via Facebook streaming, via YouTube streaming, and also via vigyan, also via Skype online. Each one of you is welcome to this live streaming. The journey of Vigyan Bhairav begins when mind moves from seeking to non-seeking. Mind moves from seeking to not non-seeking. Shiva gave the techniques for transformation. Buddha gave the techniques for transformation. Krishna gave the techniques of transformation in Bhagavad Gita. Lao Tse gave the techniques of transformation. What is the difference between the techniques of Buddha, Krishna, Lao Tse and Shiva? Krishna gives a technique, but along with that, he gives an intellectual introduction or explanation. Lao Tse did the same thing. Buddha did the same thing. But Shiva does not do this. He straight away goes with the technique. No intellectual introduction, no intellectual explanation. Why am I giving you this technique? Because man is mind. Mind seeks. Journey of transformation or inner healing begins only when you are no more mind. Mind means memory. Mind means ego sense. Mind means storehouse of the memory. When all these things are dissolved and man continues to seek this and that, even spirituality for him is seeking. Spirituality, the journey begins when mind totally dissolves and you move from seeking to non-seeking. Before that, it is just a preparation or simply the waste of time. Guru Nanak has given a beautiful explanation. He said there are two types of people. One is Guru Mukh, the other is Man Mukh. Mukh means face. Man Mukh is one who is guided by his own understanding. He listens to the master and filters out only that much which appeals to him. Gurmukh is the one who does not think. If the master has said something, he immediately follows that. In Naqshbandi Tariqat, there comes an example. This example is important to me, not the character who said this, not his history or anything else. It is said when Aurangzeb was the emperor of India, his sister Zebunissa was a poetess and she was spiritual. One day Aurangzeb dreamt Zebunissa was going somewhere. There was a saint who was loudly saying that, give me a jug of water and get the heaven pardoned for you, secured for you. Not seeking any benefit, Zebunissa gave him the water, and he said, from now onwards, Jannat is yours. This particular saint was Salmat alayhi salam. Aurangzeb saw it, dreamt it. Next morning, he was a dictator, very arrogant, want his things his way. He asked Zebunissa what is that had happened. Out of fear, Zebunissa narrated everything. So out of deep desire, seeking, not in a state of non-seeking, he goes to Salmat and says that with a jug of water, maybe in a silver container, maybe in a gold container, thinking that he can convince the master, and directed him to secure the heaven for him. But you cannot force anything on the master. And when it did not happen, Aurangzeb got furious. It was on Jama Masjid in New Delhi. He got his head slain, and Salmat held his cut off head on his hand and started walking down these steps. Then his fellow disciple Hare Bhare Shah, he said, Salmat, fall down right there, otherwise Delhi will be no more. And it is said, Salmat listened to his fellow disciple Hare Bhare Shah, and right there somewhere is his shrine. After that it happened, Aurangzeb never eat meat. So whenever he is eating food, he took the morsel in his hand and was ready to take it to the mouth. It appeared to him to be meat. And he did not eat. So he went to his master, Sheikh in Sarhind. Khwaja Muhammad Masoom was the master. But the incident that I am supposed to mention is the one before. I will narrate this one also. Shah Jahan brought all his sons to Hazrat Khwaja Muhammad Masoom and asked them one by one, Hazrat, which of my son will be the next emperor? Hazrat Khwaja Muhammad Masoom was sitting on his place, a special place where the master sits. He got up from that and asked one by one. Each son of, he asked Dara Shiko, the next one, to sit down at that place. At this, each one of them said, Sir, how can I sit down at your place? The master is saying to sit here. And Dara Shiko said he was very religious. He did all that was necessary for the propagation of Vedas. He translated them in Arabic or Persian and spent his life in promoting the secret wisdom of India, but he lacked the basic wisdom, how to be in front of the master. Then came the chance of Aurangzeb. Aurangzeb read a couplet and sat down at this place. He said, the couplet meant, when your master says to dip your janamas in wine, do so. Janamas is that prayer mat on which Muslims offer their namaz prayers. If your master says to dip the janamas in wine, do so, because he is the only one who knows what is haqq. This is a state when mind has moved to non-seeking, from seeking to non-seeking. You have a total trust in the words of the master. Then the journey begins. Now, the second incident which I started with, Aurangzeb went to Salmat. He was already the emperor, to Hazrat Khwaja Muhammad Masoom and mentioned it to him. So Hazrat Masoom said, Aurangzeb, Salmat, you did something wrong. Salmat is taking revenge from you. He has no enmity with me. As long as you will remain, because of this, what you did to him, he is troubling you. As long as you will remain in my thoughts, in my remembrance, Salmat will not harm you. So he wrote in his memoir that it is because of Salmat that he remained in constant remembrance of his Shaykh, Hazrat Khwaja Muhammad Masoom. Krishna is explaining to Arjun. He gives a sutra, he gives an introduction, intellectual introduction or intellectual explanation. Buddha did the same thing. Lao Tse did the same thing, but Shiva did not do this. Shiva is straight away, Devi asked a question and Shiva gives a technique. What is important? Is there any air-conditioned room where Shiva is sitting in the company of surrounded by the disciples? Is a dialogue between Devi, Ma Parvati and Shiva. And what is very important, how Devi approaches him. That explains the state of Devi as a seeker. She is not approaching Shiva as his wife. She is sitting on the lap of Shiva with her head bent towards his countenance, looks at his face. You will not sit down if you fill with aggression in the lap of your beloved. Only when you are in a state of extreme love and understanding, not before. She looks at his face and asks, what is thy reality? Sometimes it happens between husband and wife, when the waves of love flows and A similar situation comes when the, the beloved asks similar questions. Why you look so beautiful? You are looking extraordinarily beautiful today. This is the state when a state of total surrender. Devi is not asking questions because she is Shakti, the feminine aspect of Shiva. She is equally understanding, equally energetic as Shiva is. When to curb the demon influence, Shiva did the Tandav dance, which is known as, in this he used the Damru, his typical instrument, and the demons were slain, but Shiva's dance continued. The words are very volatile. It was composed by Ravan. Jatattavi galaj pravaha pavistale gale valam yalam vitang bhujanga tunga malikam damad 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 ninadavad marvayam chakara chanda tandavah tanotanaha shiva shiva. Very energetic, exuberant song. Jatattavi galaj pravaha pavistale gale valam yalam vitang bhujanga tunga malikam damad 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 ninadavad marvayam chakara chanda tandavah shiva shivam. His dance was not stopping. Then all the gods and goddesses, they approached Parvati, his consort, to do something so that Shiva's dance of destruction could stop. Who you will ask to control the rage of Shiva? One who is equal to him. When sometimes you are angry with your employee or someone comes and puts your hand, maybe your father, maybe your mother, maybe your spouse, you say, darling, leave him. That is enough for now. So Parvati comes and she does light dance of serenity. And that brought the cooling effect on Shiva. So she was equal to Shiva as far as understanding, as far as capability, as far as energies are concerned. And out of these two words, Tandav, the first letter of Tandav, Ta, and the first letter of La, Tal. That is the essence of music, Tal. That is the essence of music, Tal. The word came out of that, merging the most aggressive and the cooling aspects of the rhythm put together becomes a tal, a musical note in music. So Devi is of that stature. Yet still she approaches Shiva to know about something out of devotion. She is asking the questions on behalf of you and I. She is trying to well that wisdom out of you. What is thy reality? What is this wonderful universe? Shiva begins. The explanation is straight away. You remember there is certain planes which fly only between two destinations. A man drives his taxi between two destinations. He does not go anywhere. Maybe the plane is flying between Boston and Washington, from Boston to Washington, Washington to Boston back. In the same way, the breath, which is an important aspect, starts, the starting point of that is your nostrils, and it goes up to the solar plexus. That is the root of the breath, from nostrils to solar plexus. Solar plexus is the center. When it gets activated, it is thy reality. This is truth. You are truth. This is your reality. And you are the movement of that truth. You are consciousness. And out of this, between these two centers, nostrils and this, you go beyond that, the two centers. Beyond that, only two centers. The third eye, the command center, and thousand petal, the center of bliss and command center, to direct that bliss, that awakening into each one of your actions. Shiva begins the sutras. Radiant one, he addresses Devi as Radiant one. This experience, what is this? What is thy reality? What is thy reality? Shankar says in Atma Shatkam, when Govind Padacharya asks him, who are you? He says, Chidanand, Mano Buddha Ankar Chittani Naham. And the last line, Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham Shivoham. That which was in the beginning, meditating in a state of utter darkness. There are masters who never come out of their cave during the day. They stayed within, no light to come in. Because you think the darkness is bad, but darkness is the womb of the cosmos, the womb of creation. The light, 68% of sun's area is dark area. And it is from there the light comes in. And that light is the truth. That light is the embodiment of God. That light is consciousness. O radiant one, this experience may dawn between two breaths. What are two breaths? You breathe in, the journey begins inward. The electrical supply is outside at your doorstep. From there it has been connected by not your engineers that you have hired to install the electrical system in your house. These are the different authorities. Authorities of the company, the electrical company, they inspect your system and connect the outer to the inner. And that moment the current begins to flow. All the wires within your system, within your house becomes alive. Current begins to flow as if new life has come into each of your electrical appliance, or you can say each organ of your house. If you consider the bulb in your living room, in your garage, the extractor, the air conditioner, the fridge, the stove, everything becomes alive. Water begins to flow. Electric current comes in. The pump starts distributing the water in all the areas. Dawn between two breaths, incoming breath and outgoing breath. When incoming breath, it touches your nostrils. Now its journey downward begins, slowly and slowly. It reaches the solar plexus. That's where the taxi has reached, is the final destination. Now what will it do? First aspect is it touches the nostrils, it begins to move downward, reaches to the solar plexus. Now watch it in slow motion. Then there is a pause. Then, just as the taxi has reached its destination, it offloads the passengers, it takes a U-turn. And then passengers start sitting back in the taxi. It reaches the solar plexus, there is a pause, the passengers have to hop out, it turns and passengers hop in, the journey begins. This is outgoing breath. Between these two breaths, O radiant one, this experience may dawn between two breaths. After breath comes in, down, and just before turning up, turning outward, beneficence, the blessings, the joy comes in. Breath touches the nostrils, its downward movement begins, the incoming breath. It is known as incoming breath. It reaches the solar plexus. There is a gap. As soon as it reaches there, it cannot just go. When you are coming straight, there is a speed. When car has to take a U-turn, the speed is very slow. Then it takes turn and it turns. Upward journey begins. Breathing out. It's not a mechanical process, but we do it mechanically. Breathing in and breathing out. It is a conscious process. Then this is the first sutra. Second, as breath turns from down to up, as I said, the breath is coming down through the channel. It reaches to the solar plexus, that's where it has to turn upward. And again as breath curves up, through both of these turns. First, it is turning up. When it reaches up, it turns down. There are two movements: turning up, turning down. Realize these. The second sutra. There is no philosophy, so mind cannot stay there, will not like it. As breath turns from down to up, and again it reaches and up to curve downwards. First it turns from here this way, then it reaches and it turns this way. Again, at these two curves, at these two turns, realize. Or whenever in breath, the third, when the in breath and out breath fuse one another, at this instant, touch the energyless, energy-filled center. There is an imaginary state when the in-breath and out-breath, incoming and the outgoing, touches one another. This is known as no war zone, no conflict zone. It is, the two words are to be explained, energyless or energy filled for that. That is no war zone. Ramayana says Ayodhya. Yudh means no. Yudh means conflict. A place, a state when there is no conflict. There is no conflict. When the in-breath and the out-breath fuse one another, they touch, that state is known as you are at the threshold. When you are at the threshold, you are neither in nor out. You have the possibility of going in and going out. Both possibility exist together. In a spiritual field, this is known as energyless, energy-filled center. That is why it is said, the journey of vigyan Bhairav begins when mind is no more. You are not seeking anything. Instead, you have moved from seeking to non-seeking. What did Devi has to gain? Krishna says, Name partha asti trishlokeshu kinchana. I do not have to gain anything in the three universes. Yet still I am standing in the battlefield, giving you, being your charioteer, giving you the message of Bhagavad Gita. But in order to give a technique, he gives an intellectual explanation and creates the intellectual situation before he gives the technique. Buddha did the same thing, Lao Tse did the same thing. Shiva straight away comes with the technique. O radiant one, this experience may dawn between two breaths. Breath is coming in, the journey of the breath is from nostril, it begins, reaches to solar plexus. This is the root of the breath. Nowhere else, no other route has been designed since eternity. Since eternity till the existence lost, this this is the route. From the nostril, the journey of the breath begins, it goes down, down and down, and it reaches the solar plexus, touches the solar plexus. First it touches the solar plexus, then its speed is slow down, it has to take an upward turn, then it takes an upward turn and then begins the movement outward, the outgoing breath. Shiva says when it touches the solar plexus, be aware, and that is the point of beneficence. And in that, this center gets activated. This is the center of truth in you. Nowhere else truth dwells except in your solar plexus. If this center is activated, you are the embodiment of truth. And then if you have known the truth, then Chit comes in. Chit is not the heart, not the mind. Chit is consciousness. And then the breath makes an upward turn, goes and reaches the nostril once again. Beyond that is two centers. That's why vigyan, although there are 114 psycho centers within the human body, but two are left. The 113 and 114, 113, 114. When you have known truth and you are living by the truth, then you don't need anything else. Your every action, every thought is guided by that experience of truth. If you have known that touching the electrical current bare wires is shocking, would you touch it? You know that putting the finger into the lighted electric stove is dangerous. Would you touch it? This is the truth. When you put your finger in the electrical socket, bare, it will give you shock. It can take away your life. This is the truth. You have known it. The moment you have known it, your entire life goes guided by that. Whether you are an electrical engineer or a mechanic, you will use the device to do it. Then your body becomes susceptible to those electrical minor shocks. It does not allow the electrical current to ground, and uses the rubber gloves. You will not put your finger into it. When you have known these two centers are activated, you have known the truth that you are the embodiment of truth, and consciousness is born. You don't need anything else. Automatically it happens from there. Bliss happens. Bliss have two centers. One within you, the electrical main box in your house, and the one outside. Then there are 2 points. When the breath coming in, it touches the solar plexus. It is now turning slowly and slowly, because you cannot turn on its speed. Take a U-turn on a high speed. Slowly and slowly it turns, and upward journey comes in. Then it touches the nostril, and again it touches the nostril and goes out. Then the next breath comes in, and it turns. It is coming here and turns, and then begins downward movement. At these two turns, become aware and realize them. Breathing is not a mechanical process, but for us, it's a mechanical process. It is a very conscious process. Or the third, he says, the technique, or whenever in-breath and out-breath fuse, they touch one another. At this instant touch, you reach to the point which is no conflict, energyless, energy-filled center. These are the two words to explain the same thing. It is either empty, that which is empty, from one side it appears to be empty, but nothing can remain empty. Now it is empty because there is no garbage in it. It is sacred. And it is filled because it is filled with the divinity, with the essence fills it. So it is energy-less, means that negative energy is completely drained out, and energy filled, the cosmic energy is filled into it. Then each one of these is the technique out of 112 techniques that Shiva gives to Devi in Vigyan Bhairav Tantra. You are Bhairav. Bhairav comes from the two Sanskrit word bhai, fear, Rav, one who is beyond fear. Vigyan there are two words, Gyan and Vigyan. Gyan is intellectual, Vigyan is experimental. You can be given a theory, but the master gives you the technique. Or when breath is all out, when you breathe out, after the upward movement, it reaches the nostril, it goes out and stopped itself. Now for a fraction of a second there is no breath within. The breath that has come in has gone out, there is no breath in, or all is down and is stopped. When it reaches, all the breath reaches to the solar plexus, there is a pause. When it reaches the nostril and then goes out, there is a pause. In such universal pause, one's self vanishes. This is difficult because it is very precise, and this happens only for, it is difficult only for one who is impure. The fourth technique, when the breath is all out and is stopped of itself, there is no movement, or when it comes down and it's stopped, that is the center outside and center within. When it goes out, it stops, there is no breath in. In that moment you become aware of the center that is outside, the cosmic center. And when it reaches to your solar plexus and it stops, there is a pause, you become aware of the center within. This is difficult. And in that, when you become aware of the center within and the center outside, self vanishes. That very moment, self vanishes. This is difficult. Only for the impure one, not otherwise. These are the 4 techniques, the beginning. Some techniques are sleep oriented, certain techniques are breath oriented. That is what comprises the Vigyan Bhairav Tantra, the oldest treatise on meditation. It is not a treatise as we understand Tantra, something, a free movement, a free journey through sex is not. Tantra is certain techniques are breath oriented. These are techniques of meditation, techniques for transformation, techniques for understanding your reality. Truth is always here. It is always already the case. You are the truth. It is there in you. But you are unaware of it. You are seeking here and there and everywhere. But you are not seeking where it is. You are lamenting. You have to search the thing in the right place. It is not something that you have to achieve in future or tomorrow's date. You are truth just here and now. This is the precise moment here and now. You cannot capture it. When the pendulum of the clock, it moves from one end to the other, it pauses at when it reaches the left. When it reaches the right, it pauses. In between there is a movement, a precise movement when it is now and here, the precise moment of the time. You cannot capture it. You did something, now you are apologizing to me. And if I say you have not done anything to me, you say, no, the hour ago I said something to you. But that is gone. And with that, the person who you insulted is also gone. You have not done anything wrong to me, because I am now and here. That is why I said nobody can seek forgiveness. Forgiveness has to be in that precise moment when the mistake has happened. You have said something to someone. That moment passed. You cannot capture that moment. And you live in the mind, not in the precise moment of timelessness. The spiritual journey is that when you are living in the moment of timelessness. So the truth is now and here. It is not something which is to be created, something which has to be devised, something which has to be sought. You have to discover it. You have to become aware of it. You have to understand this very clearly. It is not something which is to be created. It is not something which is to be devised. It is not something which you have to seek. Then these techniques that Shiva has given, the beginning of the 4 techniques, will become useful for you. Otherwise it will be just waste. You will be wasting your time. Mind is a mechanism of seeking, desiring. Mind is always in desire, always seeking something, asking for something. I am explaining many questions arising in your mind. So you are not listening to me really. wasting your time. Always the object is in the future. Mind is not connected with the present moment at all. When you are in the precise, in the present moment, in this very moment, there is no space for mind to move. Mind needs future in order to move. These are the two points between the left. The pendulum moves between the left and right. Left is the past, right is the future. The pendulum, when it begins its journey to the right, it has left, the train has left its destination, it is moving towards the future. It moves only between left and right, the past and the future. This is the mind, is the pendulum. But and in between there is a pause where the two, and Shiva gives an example of breath. Incoming breath is life and the outgoing breath is death. When these two fuse, there is a precise moment which is now and here. Says, realize that. When mind is moving from the past to future, there is a space for the mind to move. Then a point comes in when there is no space. Present moment have no space. Mind cannot move. There is no space. The truth is present. Mind is a journey between future, past and future. So it can never know the truth. It can never pause as truth. It is seeking. So there is no meeting between mind and truth. The truth can be yours. It's yours when mind is no more. Whether it is yoga, whether it is tantra, whether it is Sufi technique, all the Sufi says पहले जज्ब और उसके बाद सुलूक के मुकामात की सैर करवानी चाहिए. इससे ही तकमील की उम्मीद होती है. First, the centers related to the heart. Below heart is the nafs, the ego sense. You are not aware of this center. You are not aware of the truth, the memory. Then when the mind is seeking the worldly objects, it is not difficult. The problem is not absurd. It can be solved. But when mind is seeking the truth, the very effort to seek truth becomes nonsensical, absurd. How can you seek that which is you? Truth is not an object. Truth is a realization that you are. You can seek an object. If truth was an object, you could see that whether you have kept it in the book, whether you have kept in the cupboard, or in the safe, or somewhere else. It is, what are you looking for? I am looking for my mobile. It is an object. You can easily find it. Mind has no problem. Mind has a clear description what it looks like. The person who is helping you to seek gives a description, wants a description. Once it happened, Al Hassan Rabbi Awasri was searching something outside on the street. People were going to the prayer and they stopped and they asked, Rabia, what are you looking for? Rabia said, I lost my needle, so I am looking for it. So people without understanding start looking for the needle. So they continued looking for it, but they could not find. The time passed. Then I asked Rabia, tell me which part, the road is very big, wide, which part of and the needle is a very small thing. Which part did the needle fall? You know what did Rabia did the answer? She said the needle fell inside the house. So people said, I know you were crazy, but I did not know you were crazy. You lost your needle inside the house and you are seeking outside. Why it's so? He said, inside is dark. And how can I search for something which is lost and there is darkness? So I came out on the street because there is light, so I'm searching here. Very intelligent answer. So the people said, probably one out of them would have learned the message, not the millions who had listened to this story over and over again. Truth is lost within. There is dark. You have to go in that darkness. That's why the Shiva is meditating in darkness. And you consider the dark bad, negative. That's where it's lost. That's where you have to search for it. That is what meditation is all about. Journey, a search in darkness for that which is lost. And when it is discovered, the light begins to shine. 68% of sun's area is dark, and the light that you see every morning coming to your doorsteps is coming from the dark areas. Truth is not an object. That's why, and you have no description of it. There is no description of it. Can any of your scripture give the explanation, give the clues what the truth is? The person who is helping you to search your iPhone may ask you, what are we looking for, iPhone? What is the color of it? You tell the color. Did it have a cover over it? And the cover was a flip top or simple, just an ordinary cover. So gets all these clues and then helps you in finding the. You remember where did you keep it? One day someone asked me, I was sitting on my desk, which was my dining table, because I didn't have at that time any desk to work with. So I was working, using the dining table as my desk and working on it. So this person comes for the past 1 hour had been searching for her glasses. She asked me, "Do you know where my glasses are?" I said, "Yes, I know." He said, "Then why would you sitting like a dumb and I am looking for my glasses and asking everyone and you could not say anything?" I said, "Sorry, you did not ask me. You always have to say something like these stupid things. Okay, tell me, where is my glasses?" I said, "It is exactly the same place where you put it. And you forgot where you put it." I know you will answer this kind of a stupid things, stupid way. That is how your ways are. I am asking where my glasses are, and you said that it is exactly the same place where I put it and I forgot. Better I have not asked you and waste my time. Okay, go ahead. How am I to know where have you lost it? Where did you place it in the first place? This is the situation on a day-to-day basis that we have to face. Whether it is wife, whether it is children, whether it is disciples, whether it is friends. When mind is seeking worldly objects, there is no problem. It is not absurd. It can be solved. But when mind starts seeking the truth, the very effort becomes nonsensical because you have not experienced, you have not known what truth is, you have not known what it looks like. So there is no description for it. Truth is a realization. Because the truth is here now and mind is then and there. It is moving between the left and right with a speed. For a precise moment it pauses in the middle that you do not know that it has paused, but it does. There is no meeting of the past and the future. So understand this thing first. You cannot seek truth. You can find it only when you are not seeking it, and you cannot seek it. You are trying to remember the phone number of someone. You know, there was a person in the High Commission, a secretary, and he went back to India. What is his phone number? You are trying to stress your mind and you cannot remember his phone number. The more you try to stress, the more you try to focus, the more you find it difficult to understand. Then you forget all about it. Then you take a cup of tea, you're sipping the tea, all of a sudden the number of this person who had been an important authority in Indian High Commission or in any position and has gone back. So it's not that you can ask someone and all of a sudden the phone number pops up. You remember that. You can find it but cannot seek it. Truth is not to be sought, it has to be found. The very seeking is the hindrance in it. The moment you start seeking, you have moved away from the present, you moved away from yourself, because you are always in the present, but you do not know. The seeker is always present and the seeking is always, there are two things, seeker and seeking. Seeker is always there and seeking is always in the future. You are not going to meet whatsoever you are seeking. Lao Tse says, seek not, otherwise you will miss it. Seek not and find it. Don't seek. All these techniques that Shiva is giving to Parvati are simple techniques to turn the mind from past and future to this very moment. If you can allow your mind to move to this moment, this is the precise moment you can understand the sutras of Vigyan Bhairav. Only this much for this morning. And tomorrow morning we still have the question where the person has asked about sex, and I had continued the explanation how does life moves in 7-year cycles, and the explanation thereafter which will continue the same way between 6 to 7 a.m. Eastern Time, which relates to midday in London, 5 hours at, and in Europe, midday. In India, it is between 3:30 and 4:30 in the afternoon. Until then, take care and do have a pleasant day.